Chelsea got a fantastic victory away at Aston Villa in the FA Cup. They're doing well in both cup competitions. Of course, got a League Cup final, or whatever they're calling it these days. They're coming up very, very soon against Liverpool. But in the league, it's been pretty dire, and there's been a lot of pressure on Chelsea and Pochettino to solve it. At the time of recording in the Premier League, Potter had more points in his games than Pochettino has, 1 point. But still, I think we expected a much bigger upturn, especially with the outlay and the amount of players that have been brought in. But is that maybe a bit of a problem? And was the game against Aston Villa a bit of a plaster that's going to get ripped off pretty quickly? In terms of solving or improving between now and the end of the season, we're going to have a look at what could be a short-term solution and then maybe long-term problems to fix Chelsea. In the short term, that game yesterday, Nubaid, were you pleasantly surprised? Was it a one-off? How do you feel about it?
I think we've seen glimpses of what Chelsea can do here and there in games for 10, 15-minute spells. That was probably the first time this season, which is hilarious because honestly, the day before it was Pochettino's gone, Enzo's leaving. That's the first time I think everything came together. They were good inside the box. They were decisive in possession. The build-up generally this season has been pretty slow, but they were a little bit more cutthroat when they had chances to be. But then there is the caveat that it's Aston Villa, and there is the caveat that they tinkered a little bit.
Aston Villa this week. Aston Villa are a good team.
Yeah, but
fourth.
No, but in that sort of, there's certain games this season, as we've seen with Aston Villa, that they really suit playing and they really don't suit playing. Right. And Chelsea was the sort of game that I think it actually was a decent game for Chelsea to get the pieces in position. But we said it after the Middlesbrough game when Chelsea won 6-1. We're like, the goals are back. And then I think they didn't score at all the following game, or they hardly created a chance. So they are a bit Jekyll and Hyde this season. Almost reminds me of Manchester United last season. An individual can do something for them. Otherwise, it's like, whoa, what are we doing?
In terms of short-term fixes or between now and the end of the season, I think one thing that's been a problem is frequent rotation. We'll get onto the recruitment because I think that's part of it as well. But I think there's only sort of 2 or 3 players that have played over 20 games this season. And there's no player that's played every single game this season. The amount of changes at the centre-back position or up front, or having your best player in Cole Palmer playing as a striker, okay, if it works, but it's also your best player playing out of position. Is it something that Poch needs to do where he needs to go, I get it, we've got a big squad here and we need to develop everyone so we can sell them soon, but we have to settle on a team that's going to kind of work for a long period of time?
100%. That's been the biggest problem for me. It feels like Pochettino's been second-guessing himself all season because he's never persisted with anything. He's constantly made changes in attack, as you mentioned, in midfield, even at the back as well. We've seen centre-backs play at left-back, centre-backs play at right-back. I know some of that's been down to injuries, but he's just been... there's been so much chopping and changing. And I think as a manager, when you go into a job like that where there's a lot of change and there's big expectation, I think you need to show a bit more charisma, and I think you need to be a better communicator to get people on side with you and make them believe that they're going on this journey with you. Then you get more leeway, then you get less people in your back essentially. And like Pochettino's trying to do that. I think he came out after the game and said, look, we're not the Chelsea of 20 years ago. Yeah, of course you're not. Because if you were held to those standards...
Do you think that was a good thing to say or a dangerous thing to say?
I think it was a dangerous thing to say because you can't say that people are holding you to the standards of Chelsea over the last 20 years where they've been incredibly successful. Because if that were the case, you wouldn't be in the job still. You're only there because the standard isn't what it was. If you're holding him to Abramovich standards, he's not there.
So in terms of that journey then, I guess... Because the other thing that's interesting, I think, from a tactical point of view, first 5 games there was a 3-4-3 there. And then with so many changes, since then it's been the same formation. It's been 4-2-3-1 or however you want to put that around essentially. So in terms of chemistry and bringing those people on that journey as well, is there one where do people know where the hierarchy is within this group of players as well? Like everyone feels quite flat in terms of understanding, okay, these are our top 3 guys who set the standards, then we've got these other guys who kind of work within it. Everyone kind of knows their job and knows their role. And I come back to Cole Palmer, you've got Madueke who wants to play on the right, cut inside, and you want him to be involved. And then you've got Cole Palmer, you want him to do the same thing. So if you want to get both players on the pitch, then you've got to move someone out of position. Nicholas Jackson played on the left-hand side the other day and it worked. But again, he doesn't, like, you don't want him there. You're not bought him to play on the left-hand side. Like, it's just a little bit all over the place. Right
it's interesting on two ends because Pochettino, when he's at Tottenham, had the thing, like the charisma that made people like him and players like him, but also he had players who bought into him. Now he's in a situation where anytime he benches someone puts an Instagram story up. Thiago Silva's wife earlier this week put in a tweet, and then he got dropped and they played better, and he came on and they conceded. So I think there's definitely a hierarchy issue. There was a video going around of a ball boy, I think it was, for Chelsea in the Liverpool game, and one of the players had escorted him off the pitch, and all the players walked off, and this ball boy just stood by himself looking for someone. In those moments, I always think, like, if that is Arsenal, I can pick 3 guys who are going to go, get over here right now. If that's Man City, I can say, at Chelsea, I'm going, it's not Thiago Silva. And if you think it is, I'm telling you, it definitely isn't.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because I think you say Arsenal, you bring in Declan Rice. Declan Rice, he's going, I'm here for 8 years, and we're going over there. We're going to go and win the Premier League. Chelsea, you go, Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez, I think they're kind of trying to do it, but maybe don't feel totally settled there yet. Gallagher could be that kind of guy. He doesn't know if he's going to be there. Thiago Silva is obviously a leader, but he's not going to be there for too long either. He's not the future of the team as well. You've got Raheem Sterling, who's kind of come in, and again, it's just like, it doesn't feel like there's a sort of clarity of vision or a clarity within the squad itself, because it's kind of up for grabs.
I think also their captain's Reece James, who's been injured all season. Vice captain's Ben Chilwell, been injured all season. Conor Gallagher's ended up with the captaincy. He might be leaving and could have left 6 months ago, could have left in January. Then as a manager, I think the manager's got to go, okay, Thiago Silva, if you are my guy, I'm starting you every single week. Forget fatigue, forget performance. You're my guy. Like, I need you to just lead, and I'm fine with the standard of your performance. Or you go, fella, you're not the guy, and so you're out of the picture. Now I need a new guy. And I just think he hasn't at any point gone, you are our mainstay, you are second to him in command, and you are third to him in command. Everyone else comes into the picture later. And that's why I look at Sterling and go, there was your guy. Like, he's won trophies. A lot of ex-players that he's played with go, he's a born winner, born leader. Instead, you've gone, I want you to play right wing sometimes. Can you play? I think you played him as a 10 behind Palmer for one of the games. What are you doing?
It's that indecisiveness that we've been discussing. But I also think some of the problems that Pochettino had at PSG are now on display here. Now, the jobs are different, right? But there is a similarity in that you are expected to achieve more than the club is ready to achieve. So for PSG, winning the league is a given nowadays, but you need to go far in the Champions League. You need to win the Champions League, which you're invariably going to fail at. And with Chelsea now, you're asking a manager to take a team from nowhere because they've spent a bit of money into a position that is just completely unrealistic. And he doesn't seem to have, as I go back to the communication point, if you communicate strongly from the beginning and you make your intentions clear, Mikel Arteta is a great example of this. Throughout his Arsenal time, the reason he's had people on his back at points, but the reason he's generally been able to keep people off his back is because he's always communicated very clearly and shown a charisma, a passion. That term passion gets thrown around, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Clarity of vision, though, I think is important.
Yeah.
Like, we've all seen the documentary. We've all seen is it a hare or is it a duck? Like, that's for Chelsea. We don't know if it's a hare or it's a duck right now. And I think coming back to that sort of style of play and knowing how you're going to play. Look at Brighton with De Zerbi. Look at Ange. Look at Arteta. Look at Man City. You take players out and put players in. Because the system's so ingrained, you have pictures. And you can move the ball quickly. They have no threat moving through the thirds. That's why the tempo's slow, because they don't know where everyone is quickly enough. And then you mix that in with pretty woeful recruitment, where you look at the forward line. I've got the forwards here: Nkunku, Sterling, Nicholas Jackson, Madueke, David Washington, Diego Moreira. I've never read out that name in my life. Diego Moreira, by the way. But Nkunku. Yeah, okay, maybe he's a central striker. I'm not totally sure. And everyone thought he was the solution. Raheem Sterling's not a central striker. Nicholas Jackson is, but now he's playing over on the left-hand side. David Washington, we've not really seen much of him, so it doesn't rate him too highly. And Noni Madueke is not a forward either. So, again, the recruitment, onto the long-term side of it, the recruitment is so odd to me.
There was this illusion created that they'd gone out and bought this winning team instantly. If you look at how many games Moises Caicedo played in the Premier League before getting that move, and I'm not saying he's a bad player, but the sample size prior, he did great at Brighton, but the sample size in terms of his Premier League experience, very, very small, yet you've been willing to push the boat out and sign him. Enzo Fernandez, another one. not enough proof yet to say that he was worth that money. Now, they might come good in the future.
Well, they have to.
They have to come
Yeah.
good.
That's the thing, and that's crippling in itself. You have to play them; they have to perform, and because you're not going to be able to sell all these guys, and that's why I think, weirdly, that will save Poch a little bit, because if you're like, hang on, we've got superstars here, sort it out. You get him out and you get someone in to kind of fix that. I don't think that's there, so that's gonna give him a sort of stay of execution for someone who I think is a good manager, but he needs to get hold of this fast.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the players list in front of us. I honestly didn't realise. I mean, I did, but then I've only just seen the full list and gone, they literally have like 25 players that could all play for other teams in the Premier League at any given time. And I'm going, Poch, I actually feel sorry for you.
Well, and you signed 12 players. The average age is 21.
Yeah.
Again, it's good if it works, but life's not that simple, is it?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, he's got to settle on an 11 and probably look at this list right now. So send this to Pochettino and go, he's not in my plans, and I do not care for you guys. And I think that's actually, speaking of Arteta and all the top coaches, they've all done that. Ange Postecoglou actually did that with Eric Dyer. When they desperately needed a centre-back, he played Emerson Royal and Ben Davis and said, you are not in my plans. Which was risky, but it's working because they're winning games. In this situation, if there are players there that he thinks they're not going to be playing at any given point in the future, and I don't trust you and I don't want you involved, stop it now.
There sometimes needs to be collateral damage when you're going through a process like this. And Pochettino, to me, doesn't strike me as the type of coach that's willing to make that happen. If you go back to his Tottenham days, how many summers were Tottenham close to doing something special, and then Daniel Levy wouldn't back him in the transfer market? And I know people criticise Conte and criticise Mourinho. Pochettino never had that fire in his belly to go, no, I'm going to go at loggerheads with the owner here or the chairman because I need what I need. Otherwise, this job, there's no point in doing it anymore. And at Chelsea, he's got to be a bit like that as well. He's got to say, I want this player, I don't want this player. I don't care if Todd Bowley spent X amount of money on him. He's not the guy for me. And he's got to be willing to create that collateral damage.